And I guess that's just the world that we live in. I mean, you look at really skilled professional boxers that barely get paid £1,000 a fight, or maybe they get paid a bit more than that, depending on their level. And then you get a YouTuber that goes into boxing and then gets paid, unseen amounts of money. Which I don't know how you feel about that, but for me, it's just how the market is, and you can't criticize it. You can't say it's bad. It's like when people say footballers get paid too much, and it's like, well, look, the footballers generated all that income. Yeah. It's not like we had to prioritize, okay, do we fund schools, hospitals, or football? That's not what it is, and it's the same way with Jake Paul. Jake Paul generated all that income. He didn't take money away from other boxers. If anything, he's propping other boxers up, because suddenly people are becoming more interested in boxing. They're more likely to buy boxing cards, and also fighters will fight on his undercard or his main card. Yeah. So, yeah.
I think in general, it's, I guess, how you view it. I would say it's a good thing, because I try and now look at people like yourself who are doing these things with podcasts and various things, and look at it like, oh, wow, like inspiration. I could look at you, for example, be like, oh, what's Alex doing? He's trying to do this, and like, you're just really kind of hateful about it. But I think it's about attitude thing, being like, what you do now gives you motivation to do my own podcast, to do various things. Same with like Jake Paul, whatever it is. So I think there's enough to go around with people, and it's about, I guess, supporting people, standing on the shoulders of giants that come before you, and just really trying to, do all that you can. But at the same time, we are living in this kind of like capitalist system that has all these kind of good and bad things. So you have to kind of, as you said, play the game sometimes, and be on social media and try and work with people that have got a large following, because I guess only you can know like what you're doing it for, the reasons for it. Is it just like monetary value, or is it doing something like higher purpose, helping the people, whatever that is? So
I mean, I make about 10 million a year from the podcast, but I don't do it for that. What do you think about, because you mentioned the capitalist system, like, do you have some kind of view on capitalism itself? Have you thought deeply about it? Because capitalism is a dirty word, there's no doubt about it. People attach negative connotations to capitalism, and from where I stand, there are good things with capitalism, there's bad things with capitalism. The good thing is that people can, because essentially what capitalism is, the exchange of goods and services, right? And as long as there's people, there'll always be the exchange of goods and services in exchange for some kind of like monetary compensation. But then when you get to the point where you pollute the environment, or you exploit nature, that is where capitalism needs a bit of work, or I'd say some regulation. But ultimately, I don't think it's a bad thing,
It's just difficult when it's such a big, large, kind of complex system. As you said, there are like a lot of things, like in a lot of people, there's good and bad qualities about it. And I think it can, and it has definitely gone too far in lots of areas, to do with, let's say environment, or the arms trade, or human rights and things like that. But it is a system we're living in, and we can only do, I guess, try and change us first as individual, and do the best we can, and then hopefully surround the people around you with love, and change them, and try and have like a better capitalist system, because it's not going to change overnight to something else. I'm trying to think of the phrase. It's like what is it called? Like an experiment they've done in like Norway and other places. I forgot what the term is, when they've kind of given everyone like a base salary.
Oh, like a universal basic income.
Yeah. Okay. And that's kind of interesting to think about. And I guess in some ways that's what.
How has it worked out in those countries?
So I think in most of it, it's first of all just finding how much that is, and if it's like enough for them to kind of pay rent, or maybe pay a little bit of their food bills. But I think in general, the country they've done it in, it's been quite successful in the sense that people have more time to really think about what they want to do, and either maybe like volunteer for various things, or pursue creative projects. And there are so many jobs that are, as you know, they're going to be obsolete in the near future, to do with auto robots, and more things becoming online, and various things to do with like shopping, and even kind of where I work at yoga, so a lot of gyms, a lot of that can be automated now. And
do you think?
Not all of it, and I still believe the value of human interaction. That's why I still think that even when we go back after lockdown, people still want to come and exercise, whether it's a gym, yoga studio, martial arts place, because nothing beats that human interaction. I think we'll have to to do online stuff. It's like been sped up massively to do like health and fitness in gyms. That online is here to stay, but nothing will beat that human interaction of going to, let's say, a CrossFit class or MMA class and just kind of being in the flesh and having everyone sweat around you and having that community aspect. But
I don't like to get pessimistic about the way things are heading, right? But we've been in lockdown for just under a year now.
Yeah,
I think it was like March 29th. It was very late March, and I remember that because we did DMT on March 7th, right? And then I moved in here on like March 12th.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks after that, there was the lockdown. And originally it was meant to be for, I think, 2 weeks or something. It was meant to be 2 weeks just to flatten the curve. And if you look at the cases that they had back then as well, they were so low to warrant a lockdown. I mean, like, if you compare them to the cases that we had in December, which were sort of 70,000 per day, which is loads of cases, right? But I think at the time of the first lockdown, we were having sort of like 6,000 or something, 7,000. And you could argue that the lockdown caused the numbers to stay low and keep low and everything. But I don't know. It's just hard to imagine a time where the government will not impose lockdowns on people again.
Yeah, and there's lots of things I was speaking to a mate the other day. Like, imagine being in a sweaty club, like a basement club with no windows, and everyone drinking alcohol, and like you're rubbing shoulder to shoulder with 100 people.
Gal everywhere.
It's just like such a or even being a festival. Like, obviously they cancelled Glastonbury already this year, but
They've cancelled it.
Yeah, because I was gonna go, but
damn,
alas. But maybe smaller festivals might be still on.
Yeah.
But yeah, things like that.
It won't be the same though. You have face masks. Yeah. People will be like, "Whoa, don't dance next to me."
It's weird. You're interacting with people and being in a space with even more than like one other person. And it's gonna take a long while, especially for like children growing up in this era of just like being told they can't hug people, touch people, show affection. And their school life is just all on like Zoom and video, and that kind of really shows the inequality of people who have enough money, parents have enough money to kind of have an extra room where the kids can work and has a laptop and all that stuff, whereas families that don't have that, and then their kids don't have maybe a laptop or a place to kind of work, and that's going to only increase the inequality of kids that, for whatever reasons they aren't able to kind of learn because it's all on Zoom and they haven't got special care, wherever it is. And so as you said, there's a lot of things that you could look as negative, but I think both of us are quite optimistic people, and you've got to just find those kind of little rays of sunshine to.
So I'm hoping the logical thing is that by sort of late March to beginning of April, everything opens up again. Yeah, the vaccine's been rolled out quite successfully and quite extensively, which I mean, I'm not anti-vax by any stretch of the imagination. I think that it should be up to you. You should conduct a sort of risk assessment, a personal risk assessment, and see whether you should have it or not. I had COVID. I was okay after 3 days. I think I don't need the vaccine, right? I think I'm okay. But I think a lot of people that are vulnerable should definitely take a vaccine because they're going to suffer if they don't have it. So with that in mind, I think that after we open in March, the temperature is going to get hotter again, which we know is something that COVID doesn't like. Yeah. So the cases go down quite unanimously. Yeah. But who's to say that it won't come back or mutate and keep coming back? And who's to say that it's not something that we're going to have to live with forever? And I don't know if you listen to the Tim Dillon podcast. You ever listen to it?
No.
It's very entertaining and informative, right? Because he's such a special person because he's like a raving conservative with like a liberal heart. And he's gay, but he's so like, he's like a macho New Jersey like kind of character, but he's gay. He's a walking contradiction. Yeah. And he chats shit about everyone. He's almost like, you know, when Milo Yiannopoulos was saying the most outrageous shit, and it's like, well, what are you gonna say? He's gay, dude. You can't pull him up on what he's saying. You know what I mean? And he's saying so he had this funny thing where he got banned from Airbnb. There was a big like fiasco with it, and then he was attacking the hosts that ended up getting him banned and calling him lesbians and like being really kind of hateful. But because he's gay, it's okay. It's kind of hilarious. But anyway, he was saying that he's part of this app called Clubhouse, and it's an app that all the richest mostly tech people of the world partake in having all these Zoom meetings and stuff. And for some reason, they've invited him on there, and he just sits there, and every so often he'll like offer a comic observation. They'll laugh, but he says that the world they're planning is a scary world. It's almost like a Brave New World that Aldous Huxley was envisioning, and it's there's so much power and there's so much money in those people that control tech, that they have the ability to shape the world in any way they want in order to conform to their idea of what a utopia should be. And that's very scary, because my idea of a utopia to yours is very different.
Yeah.
And if you had to live in my idea of a utopia, you wouldn't like it. And if I had to live in yours, I wouldn't like it. You know what I mean? So I kind of think that that's where the world is going. And ultimately, we need to leave the cities and go back to nature. I think... I'm not saying we all need to do that, because then nature would be terrible. It would be like Canning Town, but like there would be Canning Town in nature. But what I think I'm going to do in the next 2 or 3 years is leave London and go somewhere where I can grow my own food and be in like smaller community. So yeah, just to avoid stuff like that as much as possible. Yeah.
Can I join you?
You can. Do you want to